but it's sincerely. All right. Tucker,
Exactly.
good to see you. Buckle up. Another busy news night. Welcome to Hannity. All right, the 2020 race heating up. Democrats are melting down. You got this huge field, far-left presidential, radical, extreme socialist candidates, and they have utterly failed to impress hardly any American voters. Now, the so-called front-runner, that's sleepy, creepy, crazy Uncle Joe, now embarrassing himself daily. You got Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren. Well, their policies would transform America into Venezuela. And then you got little old Mayor Pete. Can't even run South Bend, Indiana, but he still wants a massive promotion. So with a terrible field of candidates, Democrats, the media mob, they're now turning to a very disgusting, despicable new tactic, along with the New York Times, as we've been telling you. Well, they're now going full-on racism, racism, racism. Well, you have other groups, including the Times, now trying to talk the U.S. into an economic recession. That's right. Some are desperately hoping and praying Americans will lose their jobs, lose their savings, see a major decrease in their retirement 401ks. They want people to suffer. Why? So they can get back power and President Trump will lose the election. You know what? It doesn't get any sicker than what these people are doing. Let's take a look.
I've been saying for about 2 years that I hope we have a recession. And people get mad at me as Sean Hannity thinks I'm actually causing a recession. I'm just saying we can survive a recession.
He's taking out recession insurance. Things are going to start to turn down, and he's desperately trying to blame somebody else when the bad news comes.
There's lots of little indicators that say to me things are going south.
This president is driving the global economy and our economy into recession.
It's about time we get a recession. When the president says this is the best economy ever, it's not. And if we did face a recession, it would be normal and it would be okay.
By the way, to Bill Maher, if I was like you, I would hope you get fired and that you go bankrupt and you have no money. Now, clearly they hate Trump so much, they want you, we, the American people, hurt. Why? To score cheap political points and an advantage? They don't want to improve the lives of the millions of Americans. They just want to stick it to Trump, this insane, psychotic, every second, minute, hour of every day, rage, psychosis against Donald Trump. This behavior is so sick, so twisted and ugly. We have one 2020 Democratic hopeful, believe it or not, may not have even heard of him. His name is John Delaney. He's actually calling out his other colleagues. Let's take a look.
It feels like some Democrats are cheering on a recession because they want to stick it to Trump. I don't want a recession because I don't want these workers in here to face a recession.
All right, Delaney is one of the only Democratic candidates running who occasionally uses even just a small little bit of common sense and logic. And by the way, therefore, he's close to polling zero in this new radical socialist extreme Democratic Party. Moderates, they need not apply. Of course, contrary to the media mob's anti-Trump wishes, well, our economy is booming. Investors Business Daily, Wall Street Journal pointing it out in the last 2 days. We continue to see historic levels of employment for African Americans, Hispanic Americans, women in the workplace, and youth unemployment. Look at median income in America. It is on the rise. We've lost millions for the food stamp enrollment. That is declining. Now about 7 million new jobs. For the first time in 75 years, this is where we can literally raise the standard of living with every American. We are energy independent. Hasn't happened in 75 years. They are training in the energy field truck drivers to drive trucks with energy. That's right. And guess what? They're starting them out at 80 grand a year, as much overtime as they can handle. That is the single greatest opportunity for every American to get rich and wealthy. Nice house, safe neighborhood, good school, new F-150, new car, whatever you want. Take your kids to Disney once or twice a year and be miserable. They'll love it. Now, even according to fake news CNN, look at this. Fake news CNN, 2/3 of Americans, they're happy with the economy, which is why they all want to talk the economy down. But the radical left, they want to do to America what Democrats have done to the big cities that they alone have ruled for decades. Let's see, Chicago, San Francisco, Baltimore, Los Angeles, decades of Democratic rule. Crime, violence, poverty, misery, from one Democratic city to another. That's their legacy of disastrous leadership. That's what they would bring to America. A strong U.S. economy should be good news for every patriotic American. Sadly, Democrats, Well, many of them are now putting their depraved hatred and rage and psychosis for Donald Trump above.
Hey, are you tired of the media spinning the truth and pushing false narratives upon you? Well, take a look at this. Over the last 2 years, while the mainstream media has been pushing the whole Trump colluding with Russia narrative, the Epoch Times has been covering Spygate, the true story of collusion. And take a look at this. While the mainstream media has essentially given Hillary Clinton a pass, the Epoch Times has continued to report on and investigate her many scandals. And take a look at this. While the establishment media has been politicizing their coverage of the border crisis, the Epoch Times sent their reporters down to the border to actually go on ride-alongs with the sheriffs, speak with the border crossers, and bring the truth to all Americans. And take a look at this. While the mainstream media has been hostile to traditional values, we here at the Epoch Times have given tradition center stage and have given a platform for the wisdom, knowledge, and virtue that have been passed down in our cultures for thousands of years. So if you're looking for an awesome news source, click on that button below and try the Epoch Times for a month for just $1. And not only will you get all this, take a look at this. While the mainstream media has been normalizing both socialism and communism, the Epoch Times has been reporting on the subversion of both America and the world by these two deadly ideologies. And take a look at this. While the establishment media has essentially been neglecting their coverage of China, we've been reporting on the real threat that the Chinese Communist Party poses to both America and our way of life. And take a look at this. Over the last 2.5 years, we've been reporting on the Trump administration honestly and without any false narratives. We give America a true picture of what the Trump administration is up to and why. And take a look at this. At a time when the mainstream media and these giant tech conglomerates are censoring American public discourse, we here have an awesome opinion section that gives a platform to truly unique perspectives. And take a look at this. We recently increased our font size by 20%, so it's easier on the eyes, easier to read, and awesome. And take a look at this. We have an absolutely awesome puzzle section. Every single week, our team of puzzle masters creates 2 full pages of puzzles. They're awesome, and they're going to keep your mind fresh and active. And take a look at this. The Epoch Times' health section focuses on holistic health, how you can improve your physical, mental, and emotional well-being to create a truly vibrant state of health. Take a look at this. Our team of food writers every single week puts together the food section filled with recipes that don't just look good on camera, but taste delicious in your home. Take a look at this. The Epoch Times' travel section is truly unique because it doesn't focus on the nightlife and the club scene. It talks about the different histories and traditional cultures found around the world. It's like taking a trip around the globe while sitting on your couch. So if you're looking for a truly American newspaper that's steeped in traditional values, click on that button below and try the Epoch Times newspaper for a month for just $1. That way you can get real news delivered to your home every single week that doesn't push any false narrative, doesn't spin the truth, and doesn't have any hidden agendas. We give you the facts and let you make up your own mind. Just click on that button below.
What does this strange-looking tomato have to do with arthritis? Everything, according to a new scientific discovery. Recent studies conducted by the NIH show that tomatoes, although nutritious, can ramp up inflammation in the body and make your joint pain and arthritis even worse. It was one of the many everyday foods they studied and ranked very high on the foods to avoid list for people with arthritis. Some of the foods that were included on this list will probably surprise you. In fact, if you are like most people, you are eating at least a few of these every day. Click the link in this video to see the 5 worst foods for arthritis. In addition to walking you through the 5 worst foods, we're also going to cover other facts you need to know, like the real culprit behind your arthritis pain. Less than 1 in 10,000 people know this. The discovery of a little-known New York doctor that will give you a huge advantage in your fight against arthritis. The reason that traditional painkillers make things worse. What special type of superfood can actually counteract the damage of arthritis itself? Click the Learn More button in this video to watch this special presentation now.
everything else. Again, if Trump cured cancer, a lot of these people would hate him. Now, for example, they'd like to talk down the American economy just to win back what? What do they want? Power for themselves, control for themselves. Now, we saw this Trump derangement syndrome on full display after the president's remarks about his tough trade negotiations with China. They purposely take it out of context. Just let's take a look and we'll break it down for you. But
over the last 5 or 6 years, China's made $500 billion. $500 billion, ripped it out of the United States. And not only that, if you take a look, intellectual property theft, add that to it, and add a lot of other things to it. So somebody had to do it. I am the chosen one. Somebody had to do it. So I'm taking on China.
All right, I'm the chosen one. Somebody had to do it. Media mob ridiculing the president, saying he was the chosen one on trade negotiations. Nobody else would do it. And there was no religious connotation to that statement. They know better. They don't care. But if it's Donald Trump, it's rage 24/7. Said the president was referring to a simple fact. He is the only American leader in decades, and he's been saying it for decades. He's seriously addressing what is the unfair trade agreements with China and other countries around the world. You know, as far as intellectual property theft, one of my friends was the inventor of the year. And his inventions ripped off, his patents ripped off day in and day out, losing millions. What he created was amazing. It's happening every day. And by the way, the trade deficit, why did they get to charge us for our goods and we're not charging them? He was chosen by the American people, this president, to be a negotiator-in-chief. We'll have more monologue in just a moment. But first, joining us now with reaction, he is the #1 host on our sister network, the Fox Business Channel. Lou Dobbs is with us, knows a thing or two about the economy, which I think you've been covering for many decades, Lou. Here's the thing. How is it possible you don't want America to succeed? I'm the dishwasher, I'm the cook, the waiter, bartender, construction guy. I want all those guys to succeed. That's me.
Yeah, it's the foundation of the American dream. We want everyone in this country to succeed. This president, by the way, Sean, is the guy who promised in his campaign that he would do everything he could for all Americans. There would be no one left out, and guess what? We've got the lowest unemployment rates for minorities in this country's history. We have one of the lowest unemployment rates overall in the country's history. And the nonsense that is being spewed, by the way, not just the radical Dems, but their complicit national left-wing media friends, they're basically building a drumbeat for recession. And the reason is, I truly believe, Sean,
can they do that? Can they talk the economy or talk away consumer confidence?
I don't believe they can, because they have no credibility. They have purged themselves of credibility with the American public. Sure, some people on the left might want to buy in, but not the whole country. And I think the reason is they have nothing to run against this president with. They have no social policy. They have no economic policy of any merit. And as they look at what he's done, he's a historic president. No president has accomplished what he has in the first 2.5 years of his presidency.
Liberal cities, one after another. Yep. We had decades of liberal rule. They are the worst cities in the country, the worst run, the most poverty, the most crime. 8 years of Obama-Biden, 13 million more Americans, food stamps, 8 million more poverty, lowest labor participation rate since the 70s. Really, we want to give these people power back, and now they want the new Green Deal on top of it? How's that going to work out, Lou?
I don't believe it's going to work out at all, Sean. And the reason is that this president has exposed the constituency and the coalition of the left in this country as is simply being geared toward two things: more federal programs and more dependency. He is reversing dependency, and as you pointed out in your monologue, we have fewer people on food stamps, fewer people taking welfare. They have jobs, and he is creating more of them. He's truly, the Dems, you know, Sean, right now they're talking recession, but the reason they're talking recession is that they're in depression about their prospects for 2020.
Well said. Lou Dobbs, get those ratings up. Being #1 on your news network is just not enough. You have to go higher than that.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations on being number one. All right, we're going to get back to the bumbling field of these 2020 radical extreme socialist Democrats. Wow.
Yeah, and before we get to the baffling, Sean, we should note that because Jeffrey Epstein is dead, prosecutors in the Southern District of New York are dismissing the charges against him, but the judge overseeing the sex trafficking case says not so fast. Advisors knew that strict instructions had been given not to leave Epstein alone in his cell. Investigators call it a stunning failure to follow instructions, but it may not be criminal conduct. And tonight, another astounding example of Epstein's ability to surround himself with powerful people. Even after he became a registered sex offender, Microsoft founder Bill Gates not only spoke with Epstein on more than one occasion about philanthropy, but he also flew on Epstein's private plane from New York to Palm Beach, though Gates reportedly refuses to say why. And for the record, the plane was not the so-called Lolita Express, which allegedly, which General Bill Barr maintained, the Epstein suicide was riddled with prison irregularities, but says he has no reason to question the findings of the medical examiner who ruled Epstein's death a suicide. Sean.
All right, Trace Gallagher, thank you. And today, President Trump, he doubled down on his criticism for the anti-Semitic congresswomen. That would be Congresswoman Tlaib, Congresswoman Omar, the government of Israel, initially blocking the two freshman lawmakers from entering the country because of their support of a boycott of Israel. Oh, Congresswoman Tlaib actually comparing that boycott to boycotting Nazi Germany. That's how sick, ugly, and twisted some of their remarks are. Of course, along with their other past anti-Semitic statements. By the way, their trip was planned, in case you didn't know, from the fake news media by a radical group that once praised suicide bombers. And Omar and Tlaib responded this week by how? Posting an anti-Semitic cartoon illustrated by a Holocaust denier who came in second in an Iranian contest to deny the Holocaust. Omar previously saying Jewish money controlled members of Congress, all about the Benjamins. She once tweeted that evil Israel was hypnotizing the world and may Allah expose their evil. So yeah, Trump is right to call out these elected members of Congress, but their fellow Democrats are nowhere to be found. The party that claims to reject hatred, anti-Semitic, they won't even criticize their own anti-Semitic colleagues. This is plain and simple. There's no ambiguity here. Instead, they attack President Trump, falsely accuse him of anti-Semitism. Now, keep in mind, there has never been a better friend or ally to the state of Israel than President Donald J. Trump. He's the one that ripped up that ridiculous Iranian nuclear deal made with the same people that pledged to wipe Israel and the United States off the map. Yeah, that people, those people, the mullahs in Iran. As part of that deal, Biden, Obama, oh yeah, they gave the mullahs $150 billion in cash and other currency so that they continue to foment terror, fight proxy wars, and yeah, build their nuclear program. And Trump has also kept his promise, something so many presidents made. He moved the embassy to Jerusalem. Every president that promised never fulfilled that promise. He also recognized Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights. Again, many promised, nobody delivered but Donald Trump. He's been called the most pro-Israeli president since Harry Truman. But tonight, Democrats, they're taking the side of the two freshman, radical, virulent, anti-Semitic congresswoman with radical ties, a strange, bizarre, inexplicable, deep-seated hatred of Israel. And that includes, by the way, sleepy, creepy, crazy Uncle Joe doesn't have the courage to call out either congresswoman. Now, his lackluster campaign tonight is suffering one gap after another. Yesterday, he claimed, yeah, wrongly so, that JFK and MLK Jr. were killed in the late 70s. He was off by over a decade. And Biden also claimed that he was vice president during the Parkland shooting. He confused Burlington, Iowa with Burlington, Vermont. He didn't know where he was, I guess, and he confused the former British Prime Minister Theresa May with Margaret Thatcher. She was Prime Minister when Reagan was president. But rest assured, Biden's former surgeon said, brain surgeon, has proclaimed he's absolutely certain that his former patient has a functioning brain. That's such a relief. But unfortunately for Biden, the embarrassing gaffes aren't his biggest problem. Instead, Biden is having a tough time attracting a crowd, any crowd. Yesterday, our own Peter Doocy asked Biden about his lack of enthusiasm. Sleepy, creepy, crazy. Well, he got pretty angry. Take a look.
I'm drawing as bigger crowds or bigger than anybody. Have you seen anybody draw bigger crowds than me here in this state?
Yes.
Oh, you have? Where?
In Des Moines.
In Des Moines?
Mr. Vice President.
Look, I mean, I know I know you're going to go after me no matter what. I got it. Yeah, you. And it's okay. It's good. I'm a big boy. I can handle it. But, you know, I mean, like, I noticed you didn't ask me why I'm ahead in all the polls still. I noticed you didn't ask me how I feel about the new CNN poll.
Well, he didn't ask about why his fundraising was tanking. He didn't ask why his polls had dropped significantly and precipitously since his bad appearances, or any of his multiple gaffes, which we could spend a whole program on. So I'm not sure why he's so mad at, well, our friend Mr. Doocy. After all, it was Biden's own wife. His own wife. It's not a good endorsement. Who said that voters would need to hold their nose and swallow a little in order to vote for him. Wow, there's an endorsement. And meanwhile, Biden's Democratic challengers are looking for any and every opportunity to take down the alleged frontrunner. For example, Elizabeth Warren, Miss 1024, well, she just bashed Biden's 1994 crime bill, and Spartacus Booker was just shocked by Jill Biden's tepid endorsement of her husband. Take a look.
That is kind of frightening advice to me. You know, Democrats, we shouldn't modulate our values or try to triangulate our policy positions based upon what some pundits say is electability. We know what is electability is people that can energize our base, that can energize black and brown voters, suburban voters, rural voters. We need somebody that can really excite this party. And as far as polling right now, I think Joe Biden should be worried.
Corey, your numbers are lower than his. Spartacus, get your own numbers up, then maybe you can lecture Biden. But it is clear Biden's running a lackluster campaign. The multiple gaffes shows that he doesn't have a fastball. If he ever did have a fastball, certainly doesn't have a curveball, and I don't see any knuckleball there either. Democrats are not enthusiastic about Biden. They're panicking. They're not inspired, and they're not turning out to his events, and his campaign is a disaster. Our own Lawrence Jones was in Iowa attending Biden's events. Oh, we've got all the video. Not a lot of people showed up. His full report coming up with video later in the program. Now, first, one announcement, if anyone cares. The crowded field of Democratic radical socialists just shrunk by one, Governor Jay Inslee. He dropped out of the race. Did anybody even know he was in the race? Joining us now, former RNC chairman, former White House chief of staff, Reince Priebus, and Fox News contributor Tammy Bruce. You know, let's go through a little bit of sleepy, creepy, crazy. Let's see. His own wife, Tammy, if we look at it, that wasn't very encouraging. You know, you're going to have to swallow hard. You know, not good. His brain surgeon says, no, his brain's okay. Can't go to a 7-Eleven or Dunkin' Donuts without a slight Indian accent. Bragging his state was a slave state. That's just, oh, and then my favorite, oh, this is the first time ever you got an African American that is bright, articulate, and clean at Storybook. Or poor kids are just as talented as white kids. And Joe 30330, I think that's my favorite too.
Yeah. But here's the thing that also I think Americans should be concerned about, and Democrats should be appalled by, that he's actually in this position. It is clear he should not be. And yet the Democratic Party is so destroyed, and Barack Obama destroyed it in his cultivation of a cult, that they're pushing this man to do it, because they do believe that he would have more of an appeal than all the rest of their talent. So there's a point where it's becoming embarrassing for this man to be in this position. His wife clearly wants to support him. She obviously is also worried about the party, but they can't even push through it on their own. And I think that that tells you everything you need to know. But then also their own. And I think that that tells you everything you need to know. But then also the Democrats themselves, it also highlights the contempt they have for the American people and for their own base. That there's no